Thanks for joining us on the conversation, which of course borders on governance and development, and it's partly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ. So much to talk about on the show, but specifically the focus will be on ANEEJ at 30, the journey so far, looking at what ANEEJ has been able to bring to the table in terms of development, in terms of governance, in terms of strengthening institutions, in terms of mobilization, in terms of engagement, in terms of media, in terms of civil society, and what have you. This past week has been very busy for ANEEJ, celebrating 30 years in the civil society business in Edo State, Nigeria, Africa, and of course, across the world. And this outgone week also saw the celebration of the 60th birthday anniversary of the Deputy Executive Director, African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. I'm talking about Comrade Leo Atakbo. I was there, we're all there. It was a great event. And so let me say to you once again, happy birthday in arrears, and wishing you the very best of the new age as ANEEJ moves forward and as you move forward to greater pedestal of impact. Welcome to the show.
Thank you very much, Sonny Duke.
Okay, let's talk about ANEEJ. 30 years down the line. I mean, 30 years is 3 decades. That's certainly not a mean feat at all. I mean, as a matter of fact, it's a great achievement because at 30, Jesus Christ our Lord was just 3 years older with all the outstanding impact made. So what was it like at the formative stage of ANEEJ?
Yeah, as you may already know, ANEEJ was launched by the Reverend David Ugolo, the visionary, while a student at the Ambrose Ali University, Poma. At that time, I was already one of the line editors of the Nigerian Observer, and I saw him, a young boy coming up in life with so much ideas, in him. He talked so passionately about what he was doing, and my own approach to life too is that when people come around you, give a listening ear, and then hear them out. Process what you can process, take what you can take, and leave out what you can leave out. And so he kept coming, and as the day went by, I discovered that he was, loaded with ideas. He had already started ANEEJ at the university campus, at that time as a membership organization. So his fellow students, they came in, to join. There was this particular event, a World Environment Day, that was being marked in that year, way back in the 90s, mid-90s. And then he invited me that he would like me to come and be part of that event. So I traveled down to Ekpoma to join them. Early in the morning, I was there, and I saw this young student. He was neatly dressed, but, the whole venue, I went there, I arrived there before so many of them, and then I met him with a broom in his hands. He was the one cleaning the lecture theater where that...
The venue for the event.
Exactly. He was the one that was cleaning it himself. And for me, that was, passion. He wanted... And before you could spell Jack Robinson in 1, 2 hours, that hall was packed full. Not just with his co-students, but with all the senior lecturers in the Faculty of Agriculture. At that time, Professor Remington, all of them, they were in the hall to listen to what he had to say. And they joined him, they launched, they went outside, they planted trees. I was really impressed. So after doing my own interventions and then I observed what they were doing, I went back to the office. I got there and then I scribbled a few things down for the event, and then the editor then, Adekubiero, was impressed with the work, and then put it on front page. The following morning, at that time, the Observer was,
everywhere. And such a jewel of media.
So And by the following week, I took me to him, say, where did you go? I said, I went to a poem. I said, how do you come? Tekwe was even impressed. She put her hand in her pocket and in her bag and gave me some money. He said, you mean you went alone and came back? I said, yes, I did that. And so the long and short was that by Wednesday, he saw that center spread of the Observer also reporting the event, and he was really impressed. And then he kept coming, I went to him, he went to Kumu at that time. There was this multinational company. They were bringing down the forest there, and the white-throated monkey was also being threatened at that time, and passionately was campaigning against deforestation. And then he would go to Ministry of Agriculture. One man, he put the placard on.
Like a one-man riot squad.
So I said, see passion, it was so obvious, glaring, and then from time to time, he was coming. And then a day came, he finished his program, called me that he wanted me to join him to grow ANEEJ and develop ANEEJ. At that time as well, I felt yes, I could put my ideas on the table, and so it moved from a membership organization now to an organization registered with the Corporate Affairs Commission in 2006, limited by guarantee. And from thence, it was registered as a non-governmental organization, non-profit organization. Yeah. Then we now broadened our area of work, working on issues of debt and structural adjustment, engaging the World Bank and the IMF, and all those other institutions. The African Development Bank, at that time also, they were funding some water projects in Bendel at that time. And so we felt that, yes, this is an interesting area we could continue to engage stakeholders, engage the government, engage international development institutions, engage both at the national, the state, local, to ensure that, yes, we bring development to our people. Okay. A whole lot was happening in the Niger Delta at that time. Yeah. It was even about that time also they dumped some toxic waste at Cocoa, an Italian firm at that time. And then he came to me, he said he wants to go to Brazil. He had never left the shores of Nigeria at that time. He said he wants to go and meet Senator Chico Mendes of Brazil, that the man is campaigning against a transboundary movement of toxic waste, like the one we found in Cocoa. And before you know, he came with his international passport one day. He said he had no money to, that he was just moving around, meeting people, to
trying to solicit support.
Yes, and then the support was coming gradually from the local. He was building gradually. He actually went to Brazil. Wow. He got a visa. He went, he met with the senator. Wow. He told the senator that he wanted to set up a center in Benin, named after him, Senator Chico Mendes Center, for environmental research. And so the man, from there, started all of this work. And then I saw passion. I saw, I said, yes, this is a young man who can work together.
Interesting story that will wow anybody, anytime. Well, share with us on some of the major gains, impacts, and transformation that ANEEJ has brought to bear on the society in terms of governance, civil society mobilization, anti-corruption, and several other initiatives that ANEEJ has been involved in and involved with this past 30 years.
Yeah, like I watched the clip of his interview the last Monday. I will not bother to touch on some of the points that he had made already. But suffice it to be said that some of the impacts that have been recorded, first in the anti-corruption side, is that ANEEJ played a major role on the civil society side in putting in place the United Nations Convention Against Corruption, UNCAC. And UNCAC today remains a major instrument, that is being used globally in the fight against corruption. And then when the global community needed to review the implementation of UNCAC when they had the London Anti-Corruption Summit, when Nigeria signed on to the Open Government Partnership. ANEEJ was invited. David represented ANEEJ at that event, where there was an agreement to put some set of principles in place. The global asset recovery principles, GFA principles. And the initial meeting was held in the U.S. in Washington, D.C. in 2017. ANEEJ led Nigerian civil society delegation. In fact, the entire global civil society delegation to that event, where for the first time 4 countries were piloted, including Nigeria, to look at asset recovery. We have about 17 set of principles, to look at how we have fared with asset recovery in Nigeria. Nigeria is one country, year in, year out. Reports of Transparency International will come out and say that, our position is on the lower rung of the ladder. Yeah. How do we address, these issues? How can we tackle capital flight from Nigeria? Because one of the meetings we held in Jerigbe, somewhere in Benin Republic, in 2005, one of the meetings we held in Jerigbe, the outcome of that meeting had a provision that we will need to campaign, we need to lead a campaign for the return of stolen assets, Nigerians looted assets that are stashed in different secrecy jurisdictions back to Nigeria, to finance development. Because at that time, we were working towards, that was in 1996, sorry. We were working towards the year 2000. We were working towards, the year of Jubilee. Part of what we were working on around that time was calling for debt cancellation for poor countries, Nigeria inclusive. So the meeting actually was to look at the World Bank initiative, Highly Indebted Poor Countries Initiative, HIPIC Debt Initiative, which the World Bank launched in 96 to review how countries can, be made to exit the debt trap. And then the IMF itself also launched a complementary program. The Enhanced Structural Adjustment Facility. So for a country to qualify, you must be implementing ISAF, for you to qualify for HIPIC.
Okay.
So at that meeting, there was that conversation that we will need, we shouldn't be begging the question that we should have debt cancellation. That was some, points that were coming out from that meeting. And so that idea came to us that all of those funds, illicit funds that have been flowing out of countries like Nigeria, how do we then get them back, to finance development? So that was how we now launched the campaign for repatriation of looted assets. We now came back to Nigeria, and then we set up that Nigerian network on stolen assets. Okay. A vehicle that we will use to begin now to campaign for return of looted assets.
Fantastic.
And so they started returning some of the assets looted, and then we're still on it. If the campaign is still on, they have been returning the one of late Sani Abacha and the one of some of the politically exposed persons. You know them already.
But there may be concerns that these returned, funds, looted funds, they are being re-looted, as it were.
We monitored the very first Abacha one.
Okay.
Because from what the report could show, yes, there was that
challenge.
Yeah, there was that issue that some of the funds, because it was meant to support Millennium Development Goal projects, MDGs in the country. So we found that some of those money, went into wrong direction from, what we saw on ground, monitoring. So that informed the decision to again see what can be done to improve on what happened with Abacha 1. So by the time Abacha 2 was being returned from Switzerland, that itself was channeled to the cash transfers of the federal government at that time. And we got some support from FCDO. At that time, they called them DFID. We got some support, to monitor end to end. We call it end-to-end monitoring. That is from the upstream down to the downstream to the direct beneficiary. Yeah. It's from the central bank where the money was lodged, down to the direct beneficiaries. And so we set up the platform. We got over 800 civil society across the length of.
What were the feedbacks?
So the feedback, was quite impressive.
Okay.
A good number, a good number of beneficiaries received that money.
Okay.
But that was not to say that there were no challenges with that system.
Yeah.
But it was a more successsul utilization
way. One.
Yeah. And then I could just say that at least 1.8 million households that were captured in the register, for those to benefit. Receive the money.
Okay, let me pause you there for a moment. So much more to talk about. If you just join us, welcome again to Governance and Development Conversation, and it's coming to you courtesy of African Network for Environment and Economic Justice. The program was launched last week, Monday. So every Monday, you're going to be seeing us on your screens as we look at some of these issues just to help you make sense of them and so you can participate. Today on the program, focus is on ANEEJ 30, that is African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ, celebrating 30 years of existence. So what has been the journey so far? And we've been talking with the Deputy Executive Director of ANEEJ, who incidentally also celebrated his 60th birthday on Friday, February 14. And I don't know why he chose February 14. Maybe he will tell us in the course of this program. But it was a great time we had celebrating him, celebrating ANEEJ this past 30 years. And he is 60, still looking young and strong and virile, contributing this quarter to governance, to development, and what have you. We'll take a short break at this time. When we return, we're going to play you that report, the highlights of what happened on Friday, and then, of course, the 30th anniversary celebration of ANEEJ, which took place on Wednesday, which is just like 2 days earlier. All of that in a moment. Stay with us on the program. Thanks again for rejoining us on Governance and Development Conversation, proudly brought to you by ANEEJ. Okay, let's take a listen to the highlights of the ANEEJ 30th anniversary celebration, and then, of course, the 60th birthday celebration of the Deputy Executive Director of ANEEJ, Comrade Leo Atakpo, who is with us in the studio. Take a listen.
The 60th birthday lecture, which focused on tackling multidimensional poverty in Nigeria, the need for reforms, was delivered by Professor Patrick Ohikena.
As the figures above will reveal, poverty is more in the rural areas than the urban areas. Therefore, clearly, that was open on the rural areas and make them more productive, especially in the area of agriculture, which was the mainstay of the economy.
Panelists harped on the urgent need for government reforms in security, social welfare, and education to combat extreme poverty. Chairman on the occasion and Executive Director ANEEJ, Reverend David Ugolo, extolled the celebrant as a loyal servant and complete gentleman.
Leo Atakpo is a brother, is a friend, and is a colleague. And for us in ANEEJ, we're celebrating Leo for two reasons. His commitment and dedication to the organization is indescribable.
Friends of the celebrant also paid glowing tributes.
He has contributed to national development issues in Nigeria, shaping discourses around economic justice.
We are celebrating a wonderful character, a man of the people, a visionary, a fantastic family man. As you can see.
An elated Leo Atakpo, alongside his wife, expressed their heartfelt gratitude and joy.
I should give thanks to Almighty God because it is by His grace, it is by His mercy that I am alive today. I also thank God for all the people He positioned in different places these past 60 years.
He's a man of accountability in every sense of the word. I am truly grateful to this man. And I am honored to be the wife of this regiment.
The celebration featured performances by pupils from ANEEJ Montessori Academy and cutting of the birthday cake by the celebrant, flanked by family and guests. Earlier, an award for most valued staff was presented to Leo Atapu by Reverend David Ugolo at ANEEJ's headquarters in Benin City, marking the beginning of the birthday festivities. Patience Osaogiwa, ITV News.
Thank you, Patience Osaogiwa. That was a very comprehensive account of what transpired on those 2 days. Once again, congratulations to you. We just have barely 30 minutes or thereabout to wrap up the program. Share with us, what is your expectations from ANEEJ, about ANEEJ, maybe in the next 5 years?
Yeah, in the next 5 years, we will be putting in place systems that will enable us produce the next set of leadership for ANEEJ, because the vision, the dreams that David and I will have for the organization is that we want to see an organization that will outlive us even when we are gone. We want an organization, an institution that will continue to do the work we do and even do it better than we have done or we are doing currently. So we desire strongly to continue also to engage with the government at the state level, at the national level, and at the global level. Here in Edo State, we want to see good governance in place in Edo State. We want the governor, Senator Kwewulu, to take steps, to begin to put the right instruments in place to strengthen good governance in the state. We want to also see how issues of anti-corruption can be addressed, because we also got that clear signal from him the first days in office. Okay. He was talking about need for transparency, need for accountability. That resonates very strongly with us. For us in ANEEJ, we are any government in power, we have to engage. We are apolitical, so we will continue to engage any government that is in power. Today it is Governor Okpebholo that is in office. We will be engaging with his government to see that those right instruments, like those state freedom of information law, for instance. It will be great to have it in place, that you are looking for documents, from the Edo State government. You don't
access them easily.
You can easily access them, both for media practitioners, for civil society, or even citizen, ordinary citizen. Okay. You want certain information, you are able to access them.
Okay. Now, as we quality wrap, there's a global challenge with funding for civil society organization. What is ANEEJ doing to stem this tide? Because we know that in this year, you said, for example, it's out of the question. We can't tell how many of such organizations may follow suit. Considering the huge budget that you said used to have, that is USAID used to have, that's definitely going to affect operations for organizations, non-profit organizations like ANEEJ. What is the plan?
You are correct. Even this morning, we also had a meeting and we reflected on this, that we will need to also be proactive, to begin to look at how best to raise funds aside, the regular international development assistance that comes from various donors. This time around, we're also trying to look inwards. There's this initiative, we call it the NEET initiative in ANEEJ, which we have been working together with some partners overseas in the past 2 years now. It has come to the stage now that we also require media support, because we're selling the idea to government. Okay. We want to see how we can put in place some foundation, a foundation that will be local, will be national, Nigerian owned, that government working with ANEEJ, working with other civil society actors, even with the media, to put some kind of, because there are some assets, like these return assets, that we campaign for, put some, aside to finance this kind of work, that civil society organizations do in Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Comrade Leo Atapu. If we have more time, I would love to continue this conversation. But once again, thank you for coming. And happy birthday in arrears. Thank you so much.
Happy. Thank you for having me.
That's our package today on governance and conversation development, proudly brought to you by African Network for Environment and Economic Justice, ANEEJ, still in the euphoria of the 30th anniversary of that organization. I want to say big thanks to Reverend David Ogolo, the Executive Director of ANEEJ, the visionary of that brand that's been impacting globally. And next week we'll be here again at exactly 5:30 with a fresh edition of the program. Till then, stay blessed and do have a great week ahead. Bye for now.